This hour at the White House, his first time as king. King Charles III and Queen Camilla are about to arrive. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will soon greet them. We're going to have more on this big royal visit in just a moment. But first, once a year, it's the White House Correspondents Association dinner. The president is invited as the honored guest, as well as the First Lady, members of his cabinet, Congress, and others. The hosts are the White House Press Association and members of the media. Every year, the dinner is in the large Washington Hilton Hotel ballroom. Those of us who have lived here in D.C. since at least the 80s refer to it as the Reagan Hilton. That's because this hotel is where, on March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot. But of course, and luckily, he survived. Over the years, this one-night-a-year dinner has been criticized by some, that the media gets too cozy with its sources and should not be socializing with them. But it's only one night a year, and the other 364 days of the year, we in the media are scrutinizing, criticizing, and even sometimes, frankly, insulting the presidents and the other invited guests. So at this one-night-a-year dinner, everyone is supposed to be polite, friendly with each other, and it's okay to poke fun at each other, but this is supposed to be fun. And to give you an idea of the fun of the night and the expectation, back in 2002, I brought Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne to the dinner. They were great guests. They were a big hit. Even honored guest President Bush 43 had some fun with Ozzy in the crowd. He teased Ozzy.
What a fantastic audience we had tonight. Washington power brokers, celebrities, Hollywood stars, Ozzy Osbourne. The thing about Ozzy is he's made a lot of big hit recordings. Party with the Animals, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Facing Hell, Black Skies, and Bloodbath in Paradise. Ozzy, Mom loves your stuff.
That was obviously a joke about former First Lady Barbara Bush. So, this past Saturday night, the evening started with the usual fun and good humor. Here's my friend, former colleague, now the United States Attorney in the District of Columbia, having some fun teasing the media, of which she was part of until she joined the administration a little over a year ago. Here's what she said as she arrived at the dinner, and obviously before the trouble began.
I used to be a reporter, but I'm not a reporter tonight. But what I can report is that they all look innocent, but I'm telling you, I've got probable cause on most of them, and most of them are probably guilty of something.
Janine is fun. She has a great sense of humor, but make no mistake about it, she's also a very serious lawyer and a very tough prosecutor. That fun and light humor you saw in that video ended soon. You know what happened next. It was pandemonium, and suddenly things changed. Gone, of course, was Janine Pirro's sense of humor. We soon saw her serious side, her prosecutor's side. I'll show you this only to give you a good idea, an inside look as how quickly things changed. Here's Janine Pirro when the fun ended and the serious began.
I'm at the Washington Hilton. I've been taken out of the main ballroom after the sound of the shots fired. The Secret Service is now in charge of this building, this hotel.
Yeah, things quickly changed when the shots rang out. And as you know, the president, the first lady, and others were quickly evacuated. Those of us at tables were directed to quickly get under the tables. If you dared to peek, you saw a SWAT team on the now empty dais pointing assault rifles at the tables of people trying to hide. The SWAT team didn't know if terrorists were planted in the room at any of those tables, so they had to be ready. Obviously, at some point, everyone stood down. But the night of fun was certainly over. Then immediately, everyone was back at work. The FBI investigating, even searching the man's home in California. United States Attorney Janine Pirro and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche preparing a prosecution for the man, a hotel guest who was stopped outside the ballroom. Members of the media began reporting as much as could be learned as they were all temporarily locked down in that hotel ballroom. And the president? Well, he's known for his transparency, so what did he do? He went to the press room, calmly telling the American people what happened and taking questions from reporters. Certainly not an ordinary night in Washington, but one Washington did handle professionally. Earlier, I spoke with Speaker of the House, Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, nice to speak to you.
Hey, Greta. Great to speak with you.
Well, I suppose we should start with Saturday night, which was certainly a shock to all of our systems. I know that they whisked you out pretty fast, and for good reason. You come in line after the president and the vice president, and we didn't know what was going on. But can you tell the viewers, because viewers want to know what did you do? What did you see? What did you experience?
Well, when the chaos began, I was up on the elevated platform around the perimeter of that giant ballroom. I think there was more than 2,500 people there, and I was up in a big gaggle of people, taking photos with folks, and so I didn't even hear the commotion. And the next thing I know, half of my security team grabs me by the shoulders and pushes me out the nearest door, which is about 6 feet away, and everybody's screaming, "Shots fired!" The other half of my team went to grab my wife. She was over on the other side of the ballroom at a table, so they took her out another door. We met in my motorcade, which is parked down in the basement of the hotel, and just waited for further developments. It was quite a chaotic scene, and the third attempt now on President Trump's life. It's a remarkable thing in history, and he is a resilient leader, and he was totally unshaken by all of it.
Yeah, no, it was quite extraordinary. And I was stunned because I looked up. There was a Secret Service member who jumped onto the dais and stood in front of the president, as big and bold as the president was seated, ready to take that bullet. And I thought, brother, these people are really trained well, because, I don't think I could be as courageous as that guy.
Yeah, I talked to the president about it last night, Greta, and we talked about the bravery and the courage of Secret Service, the Capitol Police that were there. That half the cabinet or more was in the room as well, so they all have their own individual details, and they all were trying to coordinate as best they could in that chaotic scene. So I'm sure there'll be a review of safety and precautions for large events going forward. That hotel is one of the largest venues in Washington. It's why most of the big events are held there. National Day of Prayer, National Prayer Breakfast, those kinds of things. But for an event like this that gathers so many people in one place, the upper echelon of the entire federal government, there's probably going to need to be some more, precautions taken in the future, and I expect we'll have that soon.
Well, I hate to take a terrible tragedy and sort of morph it into sort of a political discussion, but it does lay bare the issue of funding DHS. And tell me where we are on funding our security in this country.
Yes, we've been talking about this constantly for many months. 4 times now, the House Republicans have fully funded the Department of Homeland Security. And we had a bipartisan bicameral agreement on that 12th appropriation bill, the last of the 12 bills for Homeland Security for the entire department, the third largest department of the federal government, by the way, with dozens of agencies beneath it, all of which are tasked with keeping the American people safe. And shockingly, the Democrats have decided they don't want to be any part of funding large parts of that department, the agencies that enforce immigration law, the agencies that keep the border secured and safe. And so we have to do that on our own. Sadly, that's where we are. So Republicans will move a reconciliation bill to do it, and with their just one party. I pray that some Democrats will come along, but I don't believe they're going to, Greta, and we're going to have to get the entire department funded immediately. Events like Saturday night illustrate once again what a heightened threat environment we live in and what a dangerous time. This is no time to be playing political games.
Have you heard from any of the Democratic leaders? Have they said anything to you? And what's the timeline for the reconciliation in the House?
Yeah, well, we're going to do it quickly. Of course, this week we're also hosting the King of England for his joint address to Congress. There's a lot going on, but we're going to try to move that as quickly as possible. We have to, because the deadline really is April 30th. Mark Wayne Mullen, the Secretary of DHS, has explained to all of us, he's a good friend of mine, he says, look, we literally run out of even the emergency funds the end of this week, and so there's no time to waste. We've got to get it done immediately. I have talked to some Democrats about it, Greta, and they're just reluctant to help. They don't want to be a part of it. They have full-on Trump derangement syndrome, okay? And it informs how they see the world, and how they react, and how irresponsible they are now is on full display for the whole country. I hope voters remember this in the fall. You got to keep the grown-ups in charge, and that's the Republicans.
But I would think after Saturday night, even that Saturday night might have changed a few minds in the Democratic Party on this. I mean, a lot of those Democrats were probably in the audience, and certainly a lot of people in the media who might be critical of funding this. We were all there. We're all sitting under the tables and hiding, not knowing what's next. I mean, I can't imagine it hasn't adjusted a few people's impression of this, or view of this.
Well, we certainly hope so. After traumatic events like that, it typically does have the effect of drawing people back together, and hopefully they'll apply some common sense. But they're going to get a chance to do that this week, Greta, and we'll see. We'll see who's come to their senses. I'm just going to say I'm a little jaded about all of it right now.
I know that you shouldn't tip your hands too much on security, because that's the whole point of security is surprise and make sure nobody knows. But can you tell me, is there a heightened security in light of what happened on Saturday night for the King's address to Congress on Tuesday?
Look, we've had joint addresses and other heads of state address Congress even in the last couple of years. They do this very well. I mean, the Capitol complex is the most secure place probably on planet Earth. It certainly will be when the King is here for the special visit. And we have the U.S. Capitol Police, who are exceptional at what they do, and of course the Sergeant at Arms in the House and all the rest. That the King will be well protected while he's here and at the White House, and I believe he's going to have a great trip.
Do you anticipate anything particularly political? Because we have President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer a little bit at odds over Iran, and the King is here to celebrate the 250th, but nonetheless, that's the big elephant in the room is Iran between the two. So do you anticipate anything being said about Iran?
Well, we'll see. Look, I was blessed with the honor back in January of this year to be the first U.S. speaker to address the British Parliament, and the occasion was the 250th and our great celebration of our independence, and of course the special relationship we have with UK and our friends in Great Britain. And look, the King has the benefit that none of us do, that he's above politics, in their constitutional order, and so he rarely delves into those kinds of things. I don't know if it'll be a policy speech. I think it'll be more ceremonial, but we'll welcome it either way.
And the ceremonial is fun. I mean, in the sense that, look, they're pretty good sports. We left them. We 250 years ago. I think it took them about 7 years to the Treaty of Paris to sort of throw in the towel and admit it. But they've been our good friends in spite of it.
They have indeed, and I highlighted that when I was across the pond, and I'm sure the King will do the same. It is an important relationship. We need our allies, and we need them to stand with us, and vice versa. And so keeping that relationship is an important one, I think, for the security of freedom-loving people around the world. So I think that'll be on vivid display this week.
Is it your job to introduce the King on Tuesday?
Yes, we're going through all the protocols and special rules for the King. When the president does a State of the Union address, he walks down that center aisle and shakes everyone's hands. They pat him on the backs, take selfies. You can't touch the King. So I told all the members, different rules this time. Don't reach out and grab him, please. So we'll get through this without any incident, I'm sure.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I know you're busy, so I particularly appreciate it today. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greta. Great to see you.
Coming up, guess who's coming to the White House today? That when the record continues.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
I wish I loved my smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish money wasn't so tight.
I wish I can justify the cost.
I wish my insurance could save me more on dental implants.
See what it can do at ClearChoice. Show us your insurance card and save $5,000 on fixed full double arch implants. That's insurance assurance on a smile that's built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags are actually made overseas.
If there's one thing that deserves to be made here in America, it should start with the American flag.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America, by Americans, with American materials.
Join our pledge to make the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
They tell you to optimize, to hack. But what if you were never broken? Armor Colostrum, the first food of life, reawakens your innate brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Today is another historic day at the White House. King Charles III and his wife, Queen Camilla, arriving at the White House. This is Charles' first visit to Washington as King of the United Kingdom. He's been to the United States 19 times before, but not as King. And tomorrow, the King will address Congress in a joint meeting. Foreign Affairs correspondent Alex Salvi is at the State Department with the very latest. Alex.
Yeah, Greta, good evening. The arrival of King Charles and Queen Camilla kicks off this 4-day trip across the nation's capital, one that is certainly being viewed through a new lens, acknowledging the events that took place over the weekend. Security remains the top issue for administration officials after the shooting that took place at the White House Correspondents Association dinner on Saturday night. Buckingham Palace releasing this statement shortly after, saying that British and U.S. authorities have been in contact trying to determine whether this trip would be impacted and ultimately decided that this visit could move forward as initially planned. President Trump telling CBS News that he's confident that law enforcement is up to the task.
The King is coming here, King of England.
I think it's great. He'll be very safe here. The White House grounds are really safe. This area of not very many acres, it's really safe.
Now, the president saying there's no indication that there's any additional threats to himself or any other administration officials, noting that King Charles called him shortly after these scenes, expressing his condolences to the president for this event more broadly. Now, this visit to the United States marks the first time that a British monarch has visited the country since the late Queen Elizabeth II did so back in 2007. The king is now marking the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Declaration of Independence from British rule, with a packed schedule that includes an address to Congress and a lavish dinner that will take place at the White House. But the visit also comes at a rather tense time for U.S.-British relations, with President Trump voicing frustrations with London's lack of assistance during Operation Epic Fury, as well as ongoing trade disputes and other policy differences. But the president has a very close relationship to the king, last year visiting himself for a state visit at Windsor, and now both Americans and British citizens looking at these next couple of days, hoping that these two countries can advance their shared interests moving forward. Greta.
Alex Salvi at the State Department, thank you. Director of the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, the United Kingdom's first female prime minister, Nile Gardiner, joins me. Nice to see you, Nile. And, you know, it's like, you know, we hate to have this giant news about the security problem right before the king shows up. But your thoughts about this and, you know, and what the king is likely to be thinking or as he comes to the United States.
Well, it's great to see you, Greta, and certainly a very historic moment here in Washington, D.C. And I do think this is an incredibly important state visit by King Charles III to the United States, especially at a time of tremendous tensions between London and Washington, and really a low point, I think, for the special relationship since the Suez Crisis of 1956. I think that's how bad the tensions are between Downing Street and the White House. And President Trump, of course, has been very unhappy with Keir Starmer's overall approach to the war against Iran and the refusal of Keir Starmer's government to actually join the United States in confronting the Iranian regime. And so this is, you know, hugely disappointing, of course, for the Trump presidency. Keir Starmer, an ideological socialist, a very left-wing figure, somebody who has not actually been close to the United States at all. And so behind the scenes, tremendous political disagreements. But the king rises above of course, politics. And this will be, I think, a crucial visit in so many respects in terms of revitalizing the special relationship.
Well, the United States seems to be divided on this, American people. Do you have any sort of sense of the British people, and are they more of in Starmer's camp or more in Trump's camp on this war in Iran?
Well, it really divides, along political party lines in the United Kingdom. There is a majority in the UK against the war and against the UK joining the war, but if you look at the party political figures, there's very strong support actually for the US war effort among Reform Party voters. That's Nigel Farage's party. Nigel Farage is expected to be the next Prime Minister post-Labour government following the next general election. So there is support in the UK for the war in Iran, but really among Conservatives and especially among supporters of Nigel Farage. But, having said that, I think if you had a Prime Minister who was actually very supportive of the United States and sent a very clear message that the UK was going to stand shoulder to shoulder with the United States, I do think you would have far higher levels of support in the United Kingdom for the United States and the war against Iran. But Keir Starmer has been 100% against the war. He's been very critical, of course, of President Trump. And so this is driving, I think, a lot of the negative, political polling figures that you're seeing right now with regard to public opinion in Britain.
Nile Gardiner, as always, thank you. Thanks, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. British journalist, filmmaker, and author of the new book, Elizabeth II, In Private, in Public, Her Story, Robert Hardman joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And you get the Triumvirate Award today because you're the only one I know who's interviewed the King, the Queen, and the President. Maybe not even the award today, but always. So tell me, the King, he reigns but doesn't have any power. We're in the middle of sort of a political storm between the President and the Prime Minister of the UK. So what do you expect the next couple of days? What do you expect the King to say to Congress?
Well, Greta, it's a pleasure to be here. I think the President understands that, the King is not a politician. He comes here bringing very different messaging. I mean, the main purpose of this visit is to celebrate the 250th birthday of the USA. It's a huge deal, obviously, for both countries. 50 years ago, the late Queen came to celebrate the 200th. So a lot of what he says is going to be reflecting on centuries of shared interest, shared sacrifices, all the things that kind of bind us together. So the sort of the day-to-day political stuff, of course it's going on in the background, but he can't talk about tariffs, he can't talk about policy in Iran, and he comes with a politician. He brings along his senior foreign minister, so if anything political comes along, he'll steer it in her direction.
What do you think Queen Elizabeth would be saying about the King today, how he's doing, and even about the relationship between the two countries, and even the 250th? I mean, she was always so gracious. I mean, Americans love the Queen, even playing the Star-Spangled Banner the day after 9/11 at Buckingham Palace. But you know more about the Queen, I think, than any non-royal.
Well, I mean, having studied it very closely for my book, I mean, I know just how much the relationship meant to her. Don't forget, this is a woman who grew up during the Second World War and probably the bleakest, gravest existential crisis Britain had faced, those first few years of the war. At any moment, Britain could have been invaded. Her father would probably be put up against a wall and shot like their cousins, the Romanovs in Russia. It was a very bleak time. And to her, America represented salvation. It represented glamour, because when the US came into the war, it was like, okay, the cavalry's coming to the rescue. She loved America. She found it incredibly glamorous. She loved Hollywood. What we're seeing there, those pictures of her first state visit in 1957, that was so interesting because back then, Britain and America politically were divided because of Britain's disastrous attempt to reclaim the Suez Canal. America was very cross about that. And how did we patch things up? Well, we sent the Queen on a state visit in 1957, and that was the first state visit. She's the only person, I think, in history who has met and known 14 presidents. I interviewed George W. Bush not so long ago, and I said, has anyone else ever met 14 presidents? And he said, I can't really think of anyone. He said, maybe Kissinger might have known 10 or 11. But she knew every president from Truman through to Biden The only exception being Lyndon Johnson, who she didn't meet as president. Well, she did meet him as senator. And she also met President Hoover when he was retired. So to have that kind of span of experience, she knew them all. I mean, she rode in the park with Reagan, you know, and President Trump was her last state visitor of that record-breaking reign.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing what King Charles rather has to say. And I just have one other thing to add about Queen Elizabeth is that during World War II, when there was worry that she'd get put up against the wall or watch her father get shot, she had the option to leave London and go someplace safe, and she decided to stay, and she did stay with everybody else in London. So she's an amazing woman. Robert Hardman, thank you. We look forward to hearing from the King. Thank you.
Thank you, Greta.
Coming up, after Saturday's attempted assassination, President Trump's Ballroom building project is back in the news. I'm going to tell you why. That when the record continues.
I switched.
I switched.
I switched.
I switched to Newsmax.
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 Have you made the switch?
You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Another lost spring break? Turns out the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools are ultra durable for any climate. Can be installed in weeks, not months. And have hundreds of designs, sizes, and colors to choose from. For 70 years, Latham Pool has remained the gold standard in bringing backyard dreams to life. Our pools are easy to care for, won't stain or crack, and never require costly resurfacing. And with flexible financing options, your dream is within reach. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. It's never too early to start planning for a lifetime of memories. Visit LathamPool.com now. Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Aging isn't something that happens later. It's happening right now. We age because our cells age.
Fatty 15 is a science-backed supplement that supports healthy aging.
And just one daily capsule has over 36 cellular benefits.
That basically acts like an armor for your cells.
Fatty 15 helps to reverse aging on a cellular level.
It's not about chasing youth. It's about protecting my health for the long term.
You want to take control of healthy aging? Fatty 15 is just the thing you need to try.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
Honey, Mortgage Bunny 6 says we should keep renting.
Mortgage Bunny 6?
Reba says more realtor agents recommend Realtor.com. They track every market so you know when to make your move.
He also says that Bigfoot... Got it.
Make it real with Realtor.com.
I'm building a safe ballroom. And one of the reasons I'm building it is exactly what happened last night. We're building a room right there. If you walk out and move 20 yards to the left, you'll be right at the entrance to the ballroom. And that ballroom is being built on the safest piece of property in this country, probably one of the safest pieces of land in the world.
President Trump says the shooting and attempted assassination at Saturday night's White House Correspondents' Dinner proves the need for the White House ballroom. As you know, last fall, the president tore down the East Wing. That was to make way for a new ballroom. The drawing plans show this will be, if built, 90,000 square feet. It will fit or seat 999 people. The president says it will likely not be complete until 2028. But in December, the National Trust for Historic Preservation sued to stop construction. Their lawsuit came a week after the White House finished demolishing the East Wing. The group claimed the president exceeded his authority in tearing down the East Wing. They argued that the president needed congressional authorization. On March 31st of this year, federal judge Richard Leon ruled that the construction must stop until Congress authorizes it. Then in early April, a United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ordered Judge Leon to reconsider the national security implications of any stop on construction. So 2 weeks ago, in response to the Court of Appeals, Judge Leon amended his order and blocked construction above ground, but did allow underground construction. The case immediately went back to the Court of Appeals, and the appellate court reversing Judge Leon, ruling that at least temporarily both underground and above-ground construction can continue. On June 5th, another hearing before the Court of Appeals will be held. At that time, the appellate court will determine whether to make its order permanent, reverse it, or even amend it. Yesterday, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche called this lawsuit a, quote, frivolous lawsuit. Blanche added, quote, if your client does not dismiss this lawsuit by 9 a.m. Monday, meaning today, the government will move to dissolve the injunction and dismiss the case in light of last night's extraordinary events, end quote. Now, today, the group says it will not drop the lawsuit. Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And the last time we talked, we were both in a jolly good mood, standing in line going into the dinner. We didn't anticipate on Saturday night what was about to happen. But your thoughts about Saturday night and how it unraveled?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you could confirm that it's like a mob scene. I mean, it's there's so many people in there. It takes 30 minutes to get even to your table, just trying to, people are so packed. Yeah, you can see that on that screen. And I encountered Speeder Johnson. I've encountered Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth. And I was really stunned. I'm like, the entire line of our succession of our government was right there effectively in like 200 square feet or so. And I'm like, is that really... that's dangerous. Honestly, I never had any idea or thought that they were going to have like an assassination point. But that place was never designed to have an event like that and that kind of a danger. How people remember in 1995 was the Oklahoma bombing there. Can you imagine? They could have had months to plan this. I mean, if you could imagine, we could effectively, if that was planned enough, there could have been a serious danger in our country, having many parts of our line of secession taken out.
So where does this law lead us? I mean, obviously what happened Saturday night tees up the topic of funding of DHS. And so now where are we headed with that?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's almost the only Democrat. It's like, for all this time, the DHS has been shut down. Like these resources have been sidelined for no reason. And it's unreasonable if you want to have some reforms for ICE, but shutting the entire DHS down does not accomplish any of those things. And Iran already has had an established history of wanting to assassinate Trump. They would have had months to plan on that. Honestly, I would say we got really lucky last night, not just thankfully because the president was hurt, but there were any other people in that line could have been harmed as well. You had Vance, you had Trump, you had Johnson, you had Rubio, you have Hegseth, you have all these kinds of people like closely right there. And that's really the reality. And that was the danger. And that's why it's easy for me to say, yeah, there should be a ballroom. Just that. And I've said that online. It's like, let's just drop the Yeah, just like Johnson. That's how close that way everyone was there too. That's the line. It's like president, vice president, speaker. And now really the only one that I think wasn't in that chain was Thune. At least I didn't see him there. But my point, I said, drop the TDS. Let's just build this ballroom. And we always, as Democrats, we want to be the party of abundance, but we have a history shutting things down or taking years and years to do the very basic kinds of a thing of construction. And the president is not going to be in office when that thing's even going to be finished, so this isn't really him. But so that's part of it. And the concern, you could have a lot more inclusive and frequent and secure, the most important, secure events just in a facility like that. I never really had a problem with it to begin with, but I've been at events where people are in tents. I mean, it's just like, that's not the most powerful country in the world, where people trudging around in sod, in tents for state events. So like, that's part of it. That's really the reality here. And after that event, we got so lucky as a nation. So why are we arguing about, is this too big? Is it too this or too that? It's just, let's do this.
And let's have a little foresight, too, because we are putting politicians, senators, and congressmen out there between now and November. Let's use our head about that before we have to deal with, quote, a lucky accident, one that didn't happen the other night. Senator John Fetterman, thank you, sir.
No, thank you for having me. And now what I'm saying, it's like, this is like a country over party, and people can't forget, things like the Oklahoma bombing. That was really essentially one, maybe two people involved on that. It really couldn't have taken much to
amazing.
Have that situation. Yeah.
Indeed, it doesn't. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And coming up, the timeline of how the chaos erupted on Saturday and what the president said about his security detail. That when the record continues.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Need blood pressure support? Total Beets contain a patented key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. That's why Total Beets is the #1 best-selling beets brand in America. Take control of your health with Total Beets. Search Amazon now for Total Beets.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
this works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy 1, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into a night of chaos. On Saturday, a suspected gunman tried to enter the ballroom where the White House Correspondents Association was holding its annual dinner. He was allegedly carrying 2 firearms and knives. The suspect, Cole Thomas Allen, had his first day in court. And today, the charges against Allen are attempt to assassinate the President of the United States, transportation of a firearm and ammunition with intent to commit a felony, and discharging a firearm during a crime of violence. The judge also ordered the suspect to be held in custody until his hearing on Thursday. President Trump has praised the work of the Secret Service.
I can take any event having to do with security or anything else. I can always find fault, no matter what. I can take a baseball team that won the game 18-0 and say they should have played better. Those guys did a good job last night. They did a really good job.
White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles will hold a meeting this week to discuss the president's security protocol. Here's what the White House told my producer, quote, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles is convening a meeting early this week with the White House operations team, the Secret Service, and DHS leadership to discuss protocol and practices for major events involving the president. The meeting will discuss the processes and procedures that work to stop Saturday's attempt while exploring additional options to ensure all relevant components are doing everything possible to secure the many major events planned for President Trump in the months ahead as he gears up to celebrate America 250, end quote. Now, on Saturday, once the suspect breached security, the Secret Service acted quickly. Of course, the elephant in the room is how easy it was for hotel patrons and public to get to the security point outside the ballroom. Here's a timeline. At 8:34 p.m., the suspect sprinted through a security checkpoint. 4 seconds later, gunshots were heard. 2 seconds later, guests took cover. Secret Service then barged onto the dais with the president, the vice president, the first lady, and others were sitting. That was about 7 seconds after the shots were heard. More than 20 seconds after the shots were heard, President Trump was evacuated. In the meantime, a Secret Service member jumped on the dais and stood in front of the president to take a bullet if one were fired at the president. Secret Service evacuated Vice President Vance before the president and to evacuate to the other side of the stage. Obviously, they did not want to take the 2 men together should there be an assassin with access to them. Security sweeps continued after the president was evacuated. This was the first time in nearly 45 years there was an attempted murder against a president or former president. It's also notable the shooting came at a time when Secret Service agents, as well as other Department of Homeland Security employees, are being impacted by the partial government shutdown. Former Secret Service agent Robert McDonald joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And I guess you call this a lucky accident because it sure is a wake-up call. Because if you step back now, I mean, Secret Service were great once the breach of security happened. But even that we got to that point and how easy it is that, we're lucky the guy didn't have sarin gas or was a suicide bomber. So we got very lucky. But your thoughts about the level of security that night?
Yeah, absolutely, Greta. You're spot on with your comments there. I think there are a lot of positives that can be seen in the details reaction and the counter-assault team's reaction when the incident was finally identified. But then I think if we look outside, we're going to need to be looking at how we work our perimeters. How do we handle the perimeter aspect of things? And when we're at a hotel venue like that, how are we going to spread that perimeter out for a day or two ahead of time so that we have an idea of who's in that hotel, what they're bringing in, and what potentially could be coming at us with respect to nefarious activity?
Well, I walked in with one of Newsmax guests, Reverend Franklin Graham, and at the perimeter, and they said tickets, and we just flashed our hands up like that. We could have had, you know, like just any piece of paper, and we both commented how there was no security, but we were both pleased that we didn't have to go through a lot of security. So you've got that conflict, is that nobody particularly likes security when it applies to him or her, but, you know, and it was so easy to get into that hotel. The harder part was once you got down to the ballroom.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the topic of discussions going forward with the conference that Susie Wiles is going to have. And I also think it's important to note that in the manifesto of the bad actor there, he indicated he noticed the lack of security in and around that lobby when he was checking in. So I'm hoping that the FBI, who'll be investigating this now because the Secret Service was involved in the planning of the protection there, and the Secret Service will interview this individual and get some comments from him as to what he was seeing and why he wasn't seeing what he should have been seeing with respect to a security element there. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussions moving forward.
Yeah, and I've read some reports that his family had reported him or made some calls or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, it's you know, usually people who do things like that have had a conversation with somebody, or they do something peculiar. And if indeed the family did report or say something about him, you know, we should have been on to him a lot faster than letting him travel across country on a train to get to this point.
No, we've got to be looking at our friends, neighbors, and coworkers to see what's going on in their lives. Are they acting peculiarly? Are they all of a sudden purchasing firearms and going to the range to practice firearms when they didn't do that before? We've got to watch our kids. What are they watching on social media? Let's talk to them at the dining room table. All of these things have to go into the element of trying to avoid these type of things happening that we end up talking about quite frequently that we really don't want to be talking about. We've got to deal with the issues that are out there right now.
And kudos to that agent, the Secret Service agent, who stood up in front of the president and was ready to take that bullet. Boy, that was one brave guy using his training. And also, we need to worry about this is campaign season for everybody going out there. But Robert McDonald, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta.
Coming up, First Lady Melania Trump calling him a coward and says enough is enough. Who is the First Lady talking about? You'll be surprised when the record continues.
Home inspectors, contractors, roofers. All kinds of pros recommend Leaf Filter. Why? Topped by stainless steel micro mesh, Leaf Filter is engineered for protection. In testing, Leaf Filter handles double the water volume of common hood-style guards without overflow. Our product design is driven by relentless innovation, ensuring optimal performance even in the toughest storms. And we back it all with a lifetime clog-free guarantee.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed. And you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
If you're looking for a nutritional supplement that really makes a difference, look at Immuno 150.
I can hardly believe how much my health has improved within 6 weeks of starting Immuno 150. I have more energy, my pain is gone, and I've lost weight too.
This is an example of what we hear from thousands of customers. Place your order for Immuno 150 online or call our toll-free number. You won't believe what 7 times more minerals can do for you. Order now. You'll be glad you did.
Billy, I need help with the clicker.
Yeah, one second, Grandma. This guy's gonna buy my car.
Billy, you still there?
Okay,
You need Carvana. What's your plate number?
Boss, M-O-V.
Vehicle features, no accidents, right?
No.
Good. Generating offer. Carvana can pick it up tomorrow.
That's an amazing offer. But do you still need help with the clicker?
I'll ask your sister.
Sell your car the easy way with Carvana.
What if you could have shades like these?
for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price. And we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 five-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
First Lady Melania Trump has some blunt talk for late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel. Why? Well, last Thursday, 9 days before the White House Correspondents' dinner, Kimmel delivered a 9-minute monologue. He called it the, quote, All-American White House Correspondents' Dinner. Here's part of that monologue.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow. You know, Melania's birthday is on Sunday. That's right. She's planning to celebrate at home the same way she always does, looking out a window and whispering, "What have I done?"
As we all know, on Saturday night, the night of the actual Correspondents' Dinner, the First Lady was seated right next to her husband, President Trump, when those gunshots rung out. She had to take cover, and the Secret Service evacuated her. The shooter's target, believed to be the president and others. Earlier today, the First Lady blasted Kimmel and his monologue. She posted on X, quote, Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family is not comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. She added, quote, a coward. Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? End quote. Now, President Trump has also chimed in. Earlier today, he posted on Truth Social in part, quote, normally I would not be responsive to anything said, but this is something far beyond the pale. Jimmy Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC, end quote. So far, no known response from either Kimmel or ABC. And meanwhile, this is an interesting twist and perhaps a clever way to stay in Congress. Newly resigned Congresswoman Sheila Sherfless McCormick is still running for re-election this November, despite resigning from Congress. That's right. According to campaign documents, on April 17, then Florida Congresswoman Sheila Sherfless McCormick filed for re-election. A few days later, on April 21, she resigned from Congress. Why did she resign? Well, because the House Ethics Committee was about to recommend sanctions and her possible expulsion. This was in connection to Sherfless McCormick's alleged misuse of federal disaster funds. In March, the bipartisan committee found that she committed a total of 25 House ethic violations, include campaign finance violations, false financial disclosures, misusing official funds, and lack of candor. And now, despite resigning, a campaign aide for Sherfless McCormick told the publication Notice that she will still be running for re-election as a Democrat this November. Last year, Sherfless McCormick was indicted by a federal grand jury for allegedly stealing $5 million from FEMA and for making illegal campaign contributions. Her federal trial is set for February 8th, 2027. Coming up, an apparently unshaken president. That one, the record continues.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable. Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered. Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands. Plans start at just $34 a month, and right now, save an additional $200 off. Call 800-246-1447 or visit FAHW.com.
every day across the globe. Big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Why go on Roe? Because 1 in 4 guys experience ED. Guys, connect with a provider to find treatment that could be right for you, like fast-acting dissolvables or daily gummies. If 1 in 4 guys deal with ED, then 1 in 4 guys should go on Roe.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time. Fatty 15 actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. That's why I take Fatty 15.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Sensitive mouth and gums? Ever heard of Closest mouthwash? Your dentist and hygienist have. They know Closest is ultra gentle for sensitive mouths with non-burning mouthwashes that freshen breath, improve gum health, and strengthen teeth. Closest, the gentle mouthwash for sensitive mouths.
Mother's Day, the Jewelry Exchange has 8mm pearl strands, $39, diamond and emerald tennis bracelets, $4.99, 3-carat solitaires in 14K, $12.99. Thousands of gifts guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange Direct.
Now, celebration and laughs turned into chaos. The president was targeted in a third attempt on his life, but moments later, while many remained very shaken by the experience, Trump took to the White House briefing room. The reporters were there in black tie, albeit a little shaken up. Trump seemed calm and was there to tell what happened and take questions. Earlier today, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said this.
The president's calm in the face of chaos, while yet another individual was trying to take his life, was really remarkable to witness, and it's something I will never forget. President Trump is fearless because he loves this country, and he is willing to put his own life on the line to deliver on the promises that he made to the American public who elected him here.
Like him or not, he's tough and transparent. Thank you for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take is next. Stay with Newsmax.